Hello there, beautiful people. Welcome to the first ever episode of my brand new podcast, The Sara Show. My name is Dr. Sara Otung, and I will be telling you all about my journey from being a full-time medical doctor for the NHS to being an actress at the National Theatre, chasing and living my childhood dream. In this podcast, I'm going to be talking about my decision to leave full-time medicine, the decision to chase my childhood dream, and all of the challenges, the auditions, the self-tapes, all of the things that have come along with it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm very, very much still on that journey. But I think that one of the benefits of this modern day and age is that we can share with each other and learn from each other. And the truth is that over these last 3 years of my very new young journey into acting, I've learned so much that I would love to share with you. On this podcast, I will be talking about all things medicine to acting. So finances, applying for jobs, auditions, callbacks, lessons, balancing medicine while doing a whole other career. All of that, we will get into it. I'm no expert. I'm just living my life, figuring things out the same way that we all are. But there are some things that I've learned I would love to share with people who want to hear it. And I thought that the best way to do that would be via a podcast that you can just pop on in the background, listen while you do your laundry or whatever it is that you're doing. One of the biggest triggers for me starting this podcast was a video that I made that recently went viral. Now, this video basically shows me sat in my car crying, as I did quite often while working full-time as an NHS doctor, to me getting ready to go on stage for one of the biggest shows at the National Theatre on the biggest stage and just absolutely loving my job. That video has almost 1 million views on Instagram and hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube and TikTok. And I think one of the reasons for that is not just because of me. In fact, I think it has very little to do. Let me not diminish myself. I guess it is me and my story, but I think it's because it is so many other people's story as well. I think that there are so many people out there, potentially yourself included, who are currently working a job where you feel a bit lost. You feel like this is not what you signed up for. Or maybe it is what you signed up for, but you don't know if you can stick it out until retirement and you just don't see a way out. And from the messages that I've received and the comments that I've received, sorry, that was my tummy moving. I did just eat some jollof rice before I started recording this. Sorry about that. I don't think I'll be editing it out either. Okay, maybe I should put in some disclaimers right here. First of all, this is a very casual podcast. I'm going to sit, I'm going to chat because I need a low bar of entry. So low expectations. Another disclaimer is that I am not an expert in acting. I hope to be. Come back to me in 40 years and I really hope I'll be able to show you this amazing list of accolades and awards and moving scripts and performances. The truth is, I am Sarah from the valleys, and there is quite a lot that we learn in the early days, and I can see how easy it would be to forget what I've learned so far. So I've decided to just share what I've learned so far so people can benefit from it and not wait until I get there. Because by the time I get there, the process that I've used to get there might have already changed. So if I share it now, then people can take this information and do with it what they will. And another disclaimer, I won't be giving health advice on this. Sorry guys, it's not like a medical podcast. But yeah, if you are in the position where you're in a job and you want a change, or there's a dream that you've wanted to go for a long time and you don't know how, you don't know where to start. You're like, is this even possible? Am I allowed to make changes as an adult? Then I think that this is the podcast for you. And I really hope that from what I share, you're able to just enjoy listening, but also to get something from it, maybe the confidence or the boldness to take your own steps of faith and to live your life to the full. I do believe that what we experience and where we go in life has a lot to do with where we started, right? We're all just born. And so what I'd like to do on this first episode, before I get into the details of auditions and all of the nitty-gritty of crafting a career in acting, I would love to tell you a little bit more about myself in this first episode, because I think that will really be helpful in giving you some insight into why I think the way that I think, why I've made the decisions that I have, and how I have, by God's grace, managed to go from being a full-time doctor to a working actress. Yeah, so starting from the beginning, hi, I'm Sarah, I'm Welsh, I'm from the Valleys, so I grew up in South Wales. My parents are Nigerian, so they were born in Nigeria, I was born here, so I am also Nigerian. There were some experiences that were a bit insane, like we experienced a lot of racism growing up, so that was quite a challenge for me growing up, but there were also some things that were beautiful, which was the love of my family, my church, so I'm a Christian, I grew up going to church, and all of those things have shaped me into who I am today. The way that I was raised was very much with education being a very high focus. So if you are Nigerian or if you know any Nigerians, you know that they love a degree. Both of my parents have 3 degrees each. Both my sisters are lawyers. My brother is an engineer doing a PhD in cybersecurity. My other brother studied economics, became a coder. So the question wasn't whether or not you're going to uni. The question was, are you going to apply to Oxford or Cambridge? And will you apply for medicine, law, or engineering? Obviously, as the youngest of 5, so I'm the youngest of 5 in a big family of 7, my siblings had taken the other options, so I applied to study medicine. Now, don't get me wrong, there was a big part of me that wanted to apply for medicine, but it was also kind of me following the script of what is a good Nigerian daughter, and I was grateful for that. I don't want to put down my parents at all. I'm incredibly grateful for all that my parents have given me. I'm just giving you some context so that as I go on to discuss my thought process, you can see where it's coming from a little bit more. So I'm sat there 17-ish years old. No, 16 I think I would have been when I started the applications for medical school. Wow, that is young, isn't it? Goodness me, we make people decide so early, don't we? That's another conversation for another day. Anyway, I was 16 years old, deciding what to do for the rest of my life, deciding that I would apply for medical school. And being the achievement-oriented girl that I was, and probably to a degree still am, I decided to check the statistics of how likely I was to get into medical school. Now, growing up, back in the days when Britain was part of the EU, one of the statistics that I knew was that the area that I lived had the highest teenage pregnancy rate in Europe. That was something that adults loved to warn me and tell me about. There I am, trying to find out what are the odds of me actually getting into uni as a young black girl from the Valleys. And no matter how much I searched, I found that I couldn't find the statistics, I couldn't find the odds. The reason for that was because there just weren't enough. There weren't enough young black girls from the Valleys applying for medical school. And at first I felt a bit sad. I had experienced all kinds of things growing up, and I'd very much seen the way that the world can respond to different people based on their skin colour. So there was a part of me that felt quite discouraged. However, the other part of me, I remember saying to myself, well, I guess I will have to write the statistics myself. I said, I guess if I'm going to be one of very few, I will write the odds myself. And so I applied, and by God's grace, with a lot of work and a lot of help from my parents, my teachers, my siblings, I got into medical school. And I was really excited, really proud of that. It's still something to this day that I'm really proud of myself for. I'd say that story to say, I've carried that belief with me my whole life, that the statistics don't apply to me. I believe that I was right, that there weren't any statistics for me. And the reason for that is because there's never been another me. And the truth is, there's also never been another you. So a lot of people have messaged me saying that they really want to go for something, or they want to do this, but they don't know if it'll work. They're unsure how to make it work. And I can definitely relate to that feeling where you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know if this will work. And you just want someone to tell you whether or not you should take the leap, right? What are the odds of you actually getting an acting job if you take the leap? What are the odds of you being able to provide for your family if you leave your job to start your business? Like, how are you going to make this work? And I just want to share my belief that the statistics don't apply to you, so you really have to write your own. Now, you might be listening to this thinking, Sarah, but I'm not a rare statistic. There are a million brown-haired girls in the UK my age with my qualifications. And there might be, but they're still not you. There's never been another you, and there never will be another you. And the story of your life is one that you get to write. You are the only person who holds the pen in your hand. At some point, I have to take responsibility for, and I have to pick up the pen of my life and write my own story. When we look to the odds, when we look to statistics, we are often looking for someone else to tell us what is going to happen at the end of our story. And the truth is, no one else can tell you that. No one can tell you whether you will succeed in leaving your job or whether you will book an acting job or any of that. They can tell you their experience, like I can tell you my experience, and I can share with you the things that I've learned and encourage you and support you. But you hold the pen to your life. The reason why I want to share that belief is because I think it's so foundational in my life. You know, people will say, oh, like, how do you find the motivation? How do you make sure that you succeed? The truth is, what I'm really trying to do, and as I said, I'm just starting, guys. Like, I'm only 31. Some of you might be listening to that thinking, that's not only, but to me, that's only. Like, I've been a proper adult for like 5 years, guys. That is not very long. So I say this very much still on the journey, very much still learning. By God's grace, God has given me the pen and I have to write my story. What we often do is we will look at someone else's story. And I would do this. I would look at like my other friends in medical school who were like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. You know, once you're a consultant, this will happen. And they were content with that. And I knew deep down that I wasn't. And that can feel incredibly lonely, right? Where everyone else seems happy with the path that they're on, but you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I actually can't do this. There comes a point where the reality of it is you're copying someone else's story. You know, the title of your life is you. But instead of writing your own story, you're copying your best friend from middle school story because she seems smart and that's what people say you should do. Or you're copying what the government says you should do, or what your parents or your aunt or your teacher in middle school said you should do. But the truth is, yes, we can take advice, but everyone is doing life for the first time. So I just want to encourage you that if you're watching this and you're one of the people who's messaged me saying, how do I know that I'll make it? How do I go for it? The truth is that you have to just take the steering wheel for your own life and decide what you are going to try. That is something that I did, by God's grace, 3 years ago. It is something that I'm still doing. Even with this podcast, you might be listening to it thinking, oh, this isn't the best quality. Guys, I'm literally sat here with a camera and a microphone and a dream. But the truth is we don't know unless we try. Like, I have no idea whether this podcast will help someone, whether it will help me, whether it will get any listens or views. But what I do know is that when there is something that I really believe in, when there is something that is on my heart, I'm going to try. The truth is there have been so many other little failures along the way. I don't see them as failures. I see them as life. And I really believe that we need to just live as authentically to who we are as we can. So there are some people who absolutely thrive doing full-time medicine for the NHS. That is their bread and butter. And it was really scary. It was so scary for me to be like, this is not for me at the time. Whereas now, when I look back on making that decision, it makes perfect sense. If you've, or anyone you know, has ever worked full-time in the NHS, you will know that there can be a lot of difficulties working in a healthcare setting. So being a doctor is truly one of the biggest honours of my life. I'm still a medical doctor. I work between my acting jobs and it is absolutely amazing, but it is also incredibly challenging. It's not something that you can do while you're broken because it can break you. So for me to get to the point where I've worked so hard for something and I decide that I'm actually going to step away for a moment, that took a lot. Whereas now when I'm looking back, I can see that we have certain structures in our society in the way that we live in terms of, you know, the 9-to-5 job or the way the rota is set up. And these structures were not necessarily made with me in mind. They weren't necessarily made with you in mind. And so we shouldn't be so surprised if it doesn't fit. So an analogy that I like to use about feeling stuck in a job or feeling stuck where you are in a certain life, what I like to use about medicine, it felt like I was trying to force myself to fit into a steel mold. Imagine a stone cold steel mold, like it's something that shapes you. Trying to fit myself into this mold. But the mold had been designed for and shaped to a Caucasian 45-year-old man in the 1950s with a wife at home doing his laundry and making his dinner. Now, as a young black woman in 2021, when I made the decision to leave full-time medicine, that mold was starting to cut a bit at my hips, It wasn't comfortable. And I think that's what a lot of us do. We take someone else's design, and it's not a bad design. For someone, that might be the perfect fit. There might be someone who walks into that mold and says, oh, perfect, I love this. This is exactly what I want to be, what I want to grow into. Amazing. But for most of us, we need to tailor that mold. Sometimes we need to throw out the mold entirely and make our own. And so if you're finding right now that you're in a place in life where something doesn't quite fit, then number one, know you're not alone. One thing that I've loved from this video going viral is, well, I don't want to say I've loved it, because obviously it means that people are going through difficulties, and I don't love that. I don't want people to go through difficulties. But to see that I'm not alone is amazing, because we all get this, right? We get this spotlight effect where it's like, oh, my life is all about me and I'm the only medic who wants to be an actress. Well, as soon as I became an actor, I realized that is absolutely not true. I mean, I don't think I ever really believed I was the only one, but you can sometimes feel that, right? Like, oh, I feel so alone. But the truth is there are loads of medics who have gone from medicine to acting and have made a wonderful career for themselves and live a truly happy life. There are people who have done the opposite and gone from acting to medicine. So seeing the messages that I've got from that viral video and people telling me, hey, this is something that I want to do, how did you go about it? Just know that you're not alone. Whatever it is that you feel like you want to change in your life, whether it is career, relationships, finances, whether it's chasing a childhood dream that you've always had, you're not the only one. It is so common to chase a goal, get it, and realize, that's not what I wanted. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you stupid. All the years I spent training to be a doctor have not been wasted. They're still with me. Like, I think I even introduced myself at the start of this podcast as Dr. Sara Otung. Like, that is something I'm so proud of and I'm so grateful for, and I will really carry with me. One thing I really try to do for myself is to give myself grace to make a change, give myself grace to be wrong, trust myself and trust God that actually if I do make a mistake, we can figure it out. Like, we can figure it out, we can keep going, we can keep trying. And I want to encourage you as we get into this podcast and I talk about my own experiences and I share how I've gone from medicine to acting. Some of the decisions to you might sound a bit crazy, but I just want to encourage you to give yourself grace. If that is something that you're currently going through, where you feel stuck, or you feel like you're in the wrong job, or you feel like you've made no leeway in your career, and you just don't know what to do next, I want you to give yourself grace and so much love. And also, I hope that through this podcast and through these podcasts, I can encourage you to trust yourself a bit more. I think a lot of the time we actually know exactly what we need to do. We're just a bit scared. So hopefully with these chats, I can just encourage you to take the steps that you need to take, that you already know that you need to take, and build a life that you are super proud of and that you love for yourself. This is why I'm starting the podcast, The Sara Show. I'm starting it because I believe that 3 years ago me, so Sara in 2021, would have really benefited from being able to hear my experiences and my thoughts about changing careers. And I know that there are people who are, while living different stories, have similar situations. And so I want to share the things that I've learned. I want to share new things as I learn them. As I said, I'm very much still learning and joining this incredible world of acting. It is so exciting and so much fun. My absolute dream of a job. And it's been great. And I don't regret it. It has been absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful for all the opportunities, and I'm really excited to share with you on this podcast the steps that I've taken, because I think one thing that I was really just confused about going into acting, I was like, what do I do? How does this work? Like, how does this work? I did not understand it at all. And it's only been through learning from acting teachers and colleagues and just the amazing people I've been blessed to encounter that I've been able to get to where I am, and that I will hopefully continue moving through this space and this life. And so Make sure to follow the podcast wherever you are listening or watching, if you're watching on YouTube. Join me on my social media at Dr. Sara Otung on TikTok and Instagram for more. And let me know in the comments what specific topics you want to talk about and you want to hear about. I'm so excited to get into the details of this journey with you. And that is it for the first episode of the Sara Show, because I could talk for whales, you guys, so I'm going to just stop myself there. But I want to say thank you so much for listening. It's been a very chill, chatty episode just to introduce the concept of this show. And I hope that you'll stick with me, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I will see you soon. Bye.